Today's project is to get the engine bay clean. We'll see how it goes, but the transformation will be from this dirtiness to this cleanness. So the process I used was sprayed it down with some all-purpose cleaner, just spray it everywhere. Used the jab brush to sort of break everything free. Came back again with the all-purpose cleaner and a light mist hose to sort of rinse everything off. After it dried, and I dried it with compressed air, I came back through with parts cleaner. Now, you gotta be careful with this because if it stays too long on the paint, it'll start dissolving the paint and you'll start dripping your colored paint on the ground. But this isn't as potent as brake parts cleaner, so it's a little more forgiving with paint. So the trick is to spray it down and come back through immediately and wipe it down with a rag, wipe it off, and it just ends up being nice and clean. While I'm in here, I'm gonna make a couple notes, a couple comments on the engine bay prep for the 2GR. One thing I did was to remove this line, however it went, because it interferes right here with the 2GR motor. It comes all the way around to this hose right here, but I'm going to put a rubber line from this hose all the way around over to wherever it goes on the manifold or something over here. So it'll be routed somewhere nice and clean and out of the way. There's a big metal coolant line over here that I took out. Of course, everything that has to do with cruise control took out from over here. There was also a little, some kind of a horn alarm piece that is unnecessary. It came out. Over here, I took out the coolant catch can, the plastic one that goes there, because I'm using the Wilhelm Motorworks aluminum catch can that goes here that also excludes the need to modify the water neck, so I can fill coolant and it serves as a catch can as well, the overflow can. So that's gonna be cool. I took the charcoal canister off just to paint it, but that stays. That's gonna come back on. Doesn't look like it because they're dirty, but all these fuel lines, these little tethers were replaced and new. Used old clamps. They're fine. They're rusty, but they're fine. Soon, that's gonna be right here where I am. But today, it's another step in the engine bay prep. And it includes installing this expansion tank, catch can, coolant component from Wilhelm. And I'll be honest, I didn't really read through the description of this when I got it. I just thought it was a cool idea, so I wouldn't have to use a water-fied water neck and reach in to the middle of the engine bay to top off the coolant or whatever. I just realized this is a better solution, but I didn't read through how it was designed to work. I guess I figure it out once I get it. But it includes running lines all the way to the front of the car, to the radiator and to the heater core, and tie it all together. You don't have to, but the design is that it be self-bleeding, which is a very cool concept, especially at the beginning. And then I guess for whatever reason, if the system has air in it, it just takes care of itself. But anyway, we'll see how that whole thing goes. But for now, this is what I found. One, the wire harness here, body harness, really has to get pulled out of the way to have room for the can here. Also, the fuel line that goes to the charcoal canister is kind of in the way, so we're going to try to make that work. Additionally, I found that I needed to bend these tabs a little. You can see how that's bent down a little, and this one is bent in ever so slightly to get this to match the angle here. So one thing I am going to do, as I was planning to replace the fuel line, all the little pieces of fuel line, I realized since this is kind of in the way, this hard line, the hard line is just a connector to another rubber line. It goes back to a hard line. So I'm just gonna put new hose from this hard line all the way up to the charcoal canister, and that'll give me some flexibility to move it around the coolant catch can. So we'll see how that goes. Well, it turned out great. Pulling that hard line out was easy. Just removed a couple brackets and put the rubber line in, just sort of wraps around with a little slack, and it comes up and around and into the charcoal canister, and just gives me the ability to sort of position this with some slack, and the angle that it comes out of the only available space here is better than before, which is more like that. So that worked out. A worthwhile step while doing any job, especially putting a motor back in, is to make sure all the grounding points are clean and just able to make good solid contact. So what I did here and on this one, and for example down here, this ground strap here, this has become one of my favorite tools here. And so to just clean up the sides, give it a fresh sort of scuffed edge to make good solid contact. Also clean up the threads on the bolt itself. So all of that's clean and put back together, and makes the ground and completes the circuits. Tonight's task is jumpering a couple wires, splicing a couple wires together. This step threw me for a loop a little bit. It's not a hard task, but watching Mark's video, Frankenstein Motorworks video on wire harness prep, his plug looks different than this because he's working on a 93 turbo. And so when I went looking for mine, I was like, oh no, I let it go with the engine, but I did not. This is what the 91 has. This is the fuel pump relay plug, and to keep it running in the slow mode for the 2GR, which the 2GR does not require the fast flow mode of the fuel pump, we jumper these two wires. So the ones that get spliced together are both blue with black stripe, blue with black stripe. So both of those get snipped. They're opposite corners from each other on this plug, and they will get joined right there. And I'm just going to use a regular connector here and crimp them. Should be enough for this application.